That is Linda.
Welcome. This is Making Data Sexah. Now, the original title was the second line, is what I submitted, but our very own Linda Carlson decided that.
Come on, did it not fill the room?
What the expectations were for the performance, though. So, what we're going to talk about is how we've been making data available to all the players, not just for our internal player side, but also for fans. And so on our esteemed panel is Morgan Bonner, who's our producer of the PlanetSide 2 website, as well as the player site. Let me know what your real names are. Really.
Morgan Feldon.
Morgan Feldon. Chuck, the left dealer. And then our very own Danny from the EQ2U team talked about how we've been working with them. So, what we want to describe is just basically the what, the why, the where, when, how. So what is it? Well, the SOE data service, which has taken on the name of Census. That's our internal name that is kind of leaked out. And what does it basically do? Allows anybody to request information from SOE. This is getting the same data which we are going to be accessing. So it is whether you want character, you want an item, you want spells, current stats, images, etc. And then what we tried to do is so that it's no longer us versus you. What we access is what you access. So we basically say we eat our own dog food. Not
Charming image.
It's staying along the sexy theme, you know?
I think for dwarves that would be an upgrade if it's not.
Hey, Scots again.
And the main thing we wanted to maintain with all of this was to be able to keep the player data private so that your character could not be linked back to your account so people could hunt you down and trolls and hurt you and all this other stuff. We can talk more about privacy later, but it's been very good as far as how we've organized the data. Now, as far as why, the whole thing was, as I started working more with the player sites was, as I read the forums, people were saying, hey, you guys don't spend enough time, you're not updating the player sites enough. And we have a small team. So what one of the people that used to be at our company, Dan Kinney and Scott Maxwell, they said, how can we do this? How can we run this and empower the players? So it's not just up our team who's going to be supporting not just the sites we've got, but many sites. Let the players and their passion drive what it is. Let them go and dive down on a specific niche or interest that they have and do even more than we've done. So where? Just you can get it in your browser, just an HTTP request. And how do you access it? http://data.soe.com. That's how you can get access. Now, we'll talk a little bit more. We're going to get some examples of what that data is, where it looks, what it looks like. When? Come and get it now. It is available for EQ2 as of this last night. SMED announced that November 20th. PlanetSide 2 data will be also available. And we're talking with 3 other games, EQ2U, and the newly announced Dragon's Prophet, that they will also have player sites as well. So we're in the process of trying to get all of their data into Census so that not only do we build a site, but you, the fans, can build one as well. Now, one of the things is, this EQ2 data, we're not waiting until it starts. We've already been capturing it during the beta. And as I mentioned, other games are coming soon. So how? We tried to make it as simple as possible. So unlike some of the other players' sites out there, you have to download a database and run it in MySQL. We basically have it that it's a RESTful API. You can get JSON, you can get XML, and there's also no limits on the queries that you can do. So we're not trying to gate you on this. And we'll give you some information about the number of queries and how much data has been sent in a few minutes. And then the best thing is, and we'll talk about this some as Feldon and Czech start speaking a little bit, how we got feedback to build the system where it is right now. So it wasn't just us only, it was feedback from the developers. We wanted to make this scalable so it could reach all over the world, not just a small little subsection. So this is some information which I pulled just yesterday. These are the number of requests that are coming from different places around the world. So you can see UK is almost 3 million, Japan 4 million, Russia came sneaking in there at 5 million, Germany 5.9 million requests, Canada 3.4, then the US a big whopping almost 75 million. Now, the interesting thing is, as you can see, there's 113 million requests. Most of that, as of late April, we had 40 million requests. So in less than 6 months, basically, we've already tripled that. So the number of requests, the number of people coming in doing this is picking up steam. And we want to make it, we've been building the architecture and the behind-the-scenes systems strong enough so that we can handle a lot of data. So, hold on one second. So what have we tried to do? And I'm going to turn it over to Morgan and then these other guys to give you some specifics and see some actual sites and see some data. So, characters. Just to give you an idea, within EverQuest 2, there's currently over 1.3 million characters there. Now, with PlanetSide 2, we've already done 2 wipes of the database during our beta, but even then, we still have about 173,000 characters. And that's after doing the wipes. Wait till we open the doors. Now, how about the developers? Because the goal wasn't necessarily that we build the best site out there that nobody else can compete with us. Let me show you some of the sites that are bringing this volume. So you can see some of the numbers right there. Quest Forever. Some of you may have heard of it. 486,000 requests, really in the last few months. And this is an Android app. EQ2U Mission. Coming in there good and strong. Our own SOE's EverQuest 2 players. So you can see third most requests. EQ2 Scene coming in, and then our very esteemed panel here with over 12 million requests. This is what I wanted to emphasize, is it's not all about us. We wanted to be empowering you, and they've taken the ball and run with it. They've helped shape it. They've helped us make it better. They've made requests to add new features and functionality. And today they're going to show you not only how they've used it, but also where they're going with it. So the next thing I want to do, as we try and emphasize, let us have Census help you make a better site. I'm going to turn it over to Morgan and let him show you a little bit of what's coming up with PlanetSide 2 players. Yeah. I'm sorry, if you got in the back, you had a quick question?
You answered it in your very next question. What a presentation.
You didn't give your name.
My name is Cliff Bate. I'm the Director of Commerce Services and Web Presence. So,
My house too, so.
Again, thank you, Cliff. My name is Morgan. I'm the producer and lead developer of the PlanetSide 2 player site. No one's seen that yet because it's still under IP lock. Obviously, the game isn't out yet. But I'm going to give you a little sneak peek on how we're putting that together, give you an idea of what can be done with this data. Now I know, I have a feeling the vast majority of you are here to see these two talking about their site. This is pretty good. But I do want to give you a good flavor for what we are doing here. So, just give you a brief overview of how we're constructing our site. It's a single page site. All the data that we're pulling in is going to be via Ajax JSON. So it makes it very scalable and very modular. And like I said, it's data driven. So everything that is populating the site is coming directly from Census, other than the static graphics, the UI and so forth. What we're doing is we are manipulating the data that we pull down on our end. So Census is a very generic data source for everything that's coming from the game. We want to keep this clean as possible so you guys can do whatever you want with it. You can index it for quick searches, you can trim it down if there's some stuff you don't need, but it's all going to be available for you. We don't want to make the decisions on our side. We want you guys to make decisions on how to use that data. So, like Cliff mentioned before, it's a RESTful service. The location for the PS2 data is data.soe.com/get/PS2. Now again, that's not accessible externally right now, but once the game does go live, you'll be able to hit that. And it's the same format if you were hitting the EQ2 data, but you would change the PS2 to EQ2. And like you mentioned, XML, JSON, there's actually a bunch of other formats, but those are the most popular ones. And our site, the players for PS2, uses extensively JSON. We essentially have two different types of data in our database. There's what we call static data. It rarely changes. It'll change on game publishers, and that's the stuff like the weapons, the vehicles, and so forth that are in there. But we also have dynamic data, and this is the stuff that's really interesting, at least for me. This is all the character stats. It's regions when they're changing hands, kills and deaths. All of these things are they change very quickly. That you'll have full access to through Census. We also have a very robust developer forum with documentation. Development in the Czech was very active on that. They're kind of the beta testers, I guess you would say, kind of set that up. So they're extremely active in that community, as well as many others. And if you want access to that, I'll give you an email at the end of these slides that you can send off and get access, all the documentation, all the help and so forth to access the data. So, how do you get the data out of Census? Well, we have a couple of basic REST calls. So everything is centered around a RESTful call is verbs and nouns. So you can see here that we have a get call, and we're getting a PS2 character. And that character is mine. Don't laugh at the stats I show on here. Kill death ratio is pretty low. But so as simple as requesting from the data source a simple character, and you're going to get back everything that we have in Census here. So it'll give you all the information that you're able to do whatever you want with. We sort it, show different stats, show you what we got in stats here, because this is the most exciting part. Sorry, we need a collapse feature in here. But so we have a lot of really granular data here that you're going to be able to create a lot of different views against. So these are all the high-level stats here. For instance, I'll go to kills.
Can you read a couple of them?
Yeah. So for kills, that's one of my favorites. Of course, it's one of my lowest. You can see that we have it broken down by kills per class. We have it broken down by kills per, let me close down the class. Yeah. Let's see what else we have. We have kills per faction. You can tell what factions I've killed in. Apparently, I've killed some of my own here. That's guess I should have hidden that. Kills per vehicle, and so forth. So we really got as granular as we possibly could with this. And you can see we have a whole bunch of different metrics. Even fire count, headshots, damage taken by. That's probably a pretty big one. Playtime. So there's really a lot of good data in here that you can mine. And what we're doing, again, is putting that all out there for you to mine yourselves, to go in and pull whatever that you want out of there. Okay, so that's just an example of character. Now pull in an item. It's very similar. Oh, I do want to say, so character is very dynamic. That stuff that you saw changes very often. Most of the other stuff, like items, they don't. They just get updated every time that we have a we add new items to the game, and I think they're going to be doing that fairly often, but it's still nowhere near as often as character stats are changing. But so you're able to access a specific character by just passing in the ID. Or there's also a way you could. This is a it's a Falcon. This is actually a max weapon. You could have queried it by your name as well. I'll probably just buzz through a couple more because I know that I want to get to these guys. But the same way for getting your vehicles and for getting icons. I do want to show you this. This is the way that you will pull the actual imagery. So we have images of all of these, of everything that's in there. It's not a very good representation, but trust me, they look much better when it's done the right way. But we do have the imagery for all the weapons, all the vehicles, and so forth in the database here, have full access to. And they come in as PNGs, by the way. Okay, so now I'm going to go very quickly through the advanced census queries and what you can do. You can do an awful lot more than just pulling a single character. For instance, you can send a whole list of characters. You can send 500 characters and get all of those for you're doing searches. You're able to filter down what's returned. So you can just show the experience, the name, and the type for that character. You don't have to get all their stats and everything back. You're able to hide specific things, just like the show, but if there's just one or two things you want to hide, it's easier to use that. Limit, that's helpful if you get lists of characters, especially during searches. If you do a search on a wildcard for like 3 characters, and you or 3 actual letters of a character's name, you're gonna get a whole huge list. You might want to limit that down to 5 or 10. Resolve. This is one of the most powerful tools in Census. Basically, what this is like a table join. You're able to look up a character, and if you noticed before when I showed you the character and had a list of items, they were all IDs. It doesn't mean much to you. Then you have to go and pull every single one of those IDs as a separate, object. This will resolve that. We'll join that in there, put all those items in that one call, pull it all back for you in one nice clean package. You don't have to keep hitting Census for multiple items. And the C:, has. That's powerful too, because it'll tell you kind of what type of item is there. For instance, I will show you this one. And you'll notice I'm not using a get in this call, I'm using a count. So this is just returning numbers. It's going to tell me how many items have weapon details in them, which basically tells me it's a weapon. Because our items, and we have 543 weapons in our system. If I was to take off the has, you can see the difference here. We have 3,000 total items in there. So it's an easy way to tell what type of item you have in there. Let's see. Okay, so putting it all together. So I want to show you what we have for our character stats page. Now I'm going to have to sit down for a second because, like I said, this our player's website's not available to the public right now. I'm actually connecting to my work machine right now, so I'm able to show you that because I do have access to it on my work machine. So here is an example of our stats page, and again, my characters, so don't laugh. Everything you see here is pulled directly from our census database. We're populating all of this directly from the game data itself. Now we're putting some data visualizations on it. We have charts and pie graphs and so forth. But this is just an example of what you can do. So we're putting together a very generalized site that we think that people are going to want to get a taste of what the game is. What we're not going to be doing is getting extremely granular with this and giving everything that can possibly be done in this site. So we want you guys to do. We want you to use this data do whatever you want. Be able to create your own widgets, your own views into this. Really make some whatever your mind can come up with. One of the things that our minds came up with was the maps from in-game. We call it planet status. So what we have, the actual in-game map on our website with the regions that you have ability control. Now, has anybody been in-game PlanetSide 2 in the beta, by chance? Okay, not too many. Well, the game is about territory control. 3 factions fighting each other, and so you try to change these colors essentially from red to blue to purple. What we have here is the ability to show the exact state of the map in-game at all times. The game is surfacing this data out to us. We're generating this on the web page and being able to show in real time, or close to real time, what the map status is. And this is all available to you as well. In Census, you'll be able to hit this directly.
So is that, when you say it's updating real time, is that, you don't have to do a refresh?
Nope. It will automatically make that. Well, you can poll for the data as often as you want. So if it's every 1 second you go out and you pull the new data in, it's not going to push it.
You would set that up yourself?
Yes. Yeah, we're giving the data and letting you get it as often as you want, but we're not pushing it out to you. Not yet. And like I promised, we have a developer forum that you would access by sending an email to data-feedback@soe.sony.com. And we'll give you access to developer access into the forum. You can talk directly to these guys. You can go through the documentation and so forth. So, I just want to leave one final thing. Go crazy with the data. You know, we want you to come up with the cool stuff. We want to help you do the cool stuff. With that, I will pass it off to the stars of the show.
Thank you.
Hello. Hey. I've gotten to talk to some of you, which has been great. There's good feedback and just blown away by how many people are using our site.
There you go.
All right. Okay, so a little history lesson. December of 2010, we started the first hearing from Zoltaroth and from Rothgar that data feeds were coming and that the EQ2 player site would be built on them. So we were really excited because, okay, we're going to get the same data. We're not going to get a subset of the data. It's going to be the same data. January 2011, the EQ2 mobile app came out. Oh, awesome. But we saw what we could do with it. And Zoltaroth started showing me some of the data that was behind that. It's like, oh, I know what I can do with that. We could do some amazing things with that. So, you know, and that's one of the first lines of item data that I got. It's kind of like something awesome. So now, I should point out that Death Dealer and I, this is our first time meeting face to face and our first time talking at all by voice at Fanfare. We hadn't even talked on Skype until yesterday. It had all just been typing and, you know, Gmail and all of that. So
Was he everything you thought he would be? So
Death Dealer had written some articles for EQ2U. I sent you an email and said, I think you sent me an email.
He put an article out there saying, hey, does anybody want to write for this site?
Yeah.
Anybody thought about being a writer before? And I said, thought about it.
Yeah.
And that's how we got
So you
started.
wrote some commentary, and some of those I agreed with, but it was great because we know we did. And then in April, you blew everybody away, and you did the adornment calculator, which is still, I think, is the #1. And then in September,
Well, in September, the SOE came out with their own online status page for the servers. You can go on and see what the status was of all the different servers. I was curious how he did it, so I popped up the page in my browser, did a view source on the thing, and looked and went, darn, they're pulling the data from the browser. We're getting this data server over there. I wonder if I can do that. And I did. I wrote the server status widget you see on the right-hand side of the page there, just based on that. Well, Dan Kinney at the time was the one that was in charge of that, and occasionally you'd notice that a server was up as of 30 hours ago. Well, it's supposed to update every minute or so. And so I'd post a note out on the forums, and Dan would get back to me. And he finally got to the point where he said, look, if you say do this again, just email me. And me and Dan started talking back and forth on that. And that's when, where we were. Well, that's the service. Yeah, go ahead. I got these slides. Really late.
gray hairs for both of us. Yeah.
Last time.
So actually, before the data feeds were released, before we had access to the data feeds, we're like, okay, we have to build a site. I know something is coming. I've seen some teasers of it. We wanted to build something, so we started. I had a dedicated server. We looked at some different tools. We looked at PHP, MySQL. That was no-brainer. We went with CodeIgniter. Not in much detail, but we picked CodeIgniter because yes, it's PHP. Yes, it's model view controller, but you didn't have to stick with a template language because a lot of the PHP out there, you have to, or the frameworks, you have to follow their rules. We're like, no, I want to be able to write whatever PHP I want.
I was very big on not wanting my hands tied behind my back based on the tool.
So we got that, and some of the files, it's just whatever code we want, and sometimes we get a lot of things for free. I mean, we built the site in 5 months, so we got a lot of those things for free. And in Ion Auth,
It's like, that's all right. That's the part that grabs the data. I'll swap that out when the source changes, but this part will stay.
So before the data feeds were even live, you could search for characters, you could display characters, and you could follow characters. So that was a big head start. Then the data feed, okay, so July of last year, I went up to these guys on stage, you and Dave, and I said, when's it coming? You guys were like, it's so close. It's so, I wish we could launch it now. So, but then we got to November, we started testing it, we started looking, we actually got the login, and
well, that's when we found out that the guy behind some of this stuff happened to be Dan Kinney. I'm like, wait a minute, I know that name. I've been dealing with him with the status thing for a couple months now. So between Dan here, him, me, and Dan Kinney, we all got together working on some of the early testing of data feeds. We got to get a bit of the kinks out even in the first month or so, and well, that's on another slide coming up. But at a certain point, we started noticing people were hearing the same rumors that the data feeds were out there. Well,
how come EQ2 is the only person that gets to look at it?
Yeah,
So we're like, well, okay.
why are they so special? And the roster master team was one of them I saw posting in the forums, and I reached out to them and went, hey, let me see what I can do to get you guys access to it as well. And I contacted Dan, and that's when Dan created the data forums out there, or had been created on the SOE site.
So the first draft of the data feeds had a ton of data, but there were a lot of limitations. At the very beginning, some of the queries would take 30 seconds, 60 seconds, 90 seconds to come back. You're like, nobody's going to want to use a site that takes that long. And there were some things that we couldn't even do. Item discoveries, we couldn't do it. Even the data was there, but we just couldn't do it.
And the structure didn't support it.
Yeah. Searching for items that have intelligence and agility, or intelligence and stamina, you couldn't do it. You would get all items with either. So SOE worked really hard to make a lot of changes from the time that we started in November until the time we launched. The query language has so many differences. The format of the data changed so many times.
It expanded a lot.
But got a lot better. We got a ton of data. And most of the queries that we're doing now take just a couple of seconds. So that made it possible.
Oh, yes. I am not kidding when you see this number of 1,000. I went through Gmail in preparation for this and counted up the amount of emails that I've sent back and forth to the folks at SOE and Census, and it is over 1,000 email messages that I've exchanged with them in working to get the data structure in a better format. And they have some data this way, which said, well, that's great, but I can't query it to answer this question. So how can we modify the structure so that if you want to ask this question, you can actually get the data back? And the collaboration's been phenomenal with the team, with Cliff's team and Andy's team, getting these features implemented we've been requesting. It's made the Census a whole lot better.
It was never a situation where they gave us the URL to the data feeds and then it just went away.
Right?
They were like, no, how do we change? How do we make it better? What do you need? It was always, what do you need? Or we would say, well, can you make it do this? And they would like, check it in an hour and it'll be on there.
Yes.
So very fast paced. Really, the collaboration was amazing. This is the first graphic mock-up that I did for EQ2U, back when it was called EQ2 DB. And but you can see the beginnings of a lot of the things that are on there. We wanted EQ2U to be really fast, yet resilient. When you look up a character, when you look up a guild, an item, we cache all of the data, and then we check for items or updates if it's older than 5 minutes.
Characters, items, guilds, it says right here, these are all done in real time. When you search for a character on EQ2U, it doesn't look in our database for it. It looks at the data at the census for it. That's how we managed to not show a character. If you've gone in and say in game, I don't want to be visible to the SOE players anymore, or EQ2 players anymore.
Yeah.
That's how one of the big ways we're hiding that is if I can't find it in census, I'm not showing it to you on the website. Because you've hidden it, you said you want that to be private, it's not showing anymore on my site. But the guild searches, the item searches, all those are done real time against the census data. And the discovery info. As soon as an item is discovered in census, and I've checked this a couple of times, I thought it was really cool when we first got the discovery stuff working. I see an announcement of a guildmate that just discovered something, and I go real quick over to EQ2U and I type in that item and I go, it's the first time it's discovered worldwide, and there it is, already on EQ2U.
It's like 5 seconds. It's like 5 seconds. Yeah. So
And the thing is, the item, we learned this from talking to the folks, the item's already in census. It's just hidden until someone discovers it. When someone discovers it, it fires off an update over to the census and says, now it's been discovered, and then you can see it. So that's how it's there so fast. Basically, my section of it is going in census, grabbing the data from there, pulling it over into whatever tables or tables that we want to stuff it into to cache the data. I then take that, pull it up in however we're going to want one per page. We're going to want this set of data on this page, this set of data on this page, and usually there's a collaboration between me and him on that. I then get all that data stacked up and put it out to the view. And this is the model view controller we're talking about, view, not a database view. And we take that and I dump it out to a view in a method that looks like a ransom note. The page is hideous, it's horrible, you weren't here, that's what the whole site would look like. But the data's there, you can see it. I'm like, well, it looks like crap, but at least I can see it here. And then he takes over.
You just start with a black and white. I mean, I just open it up. It's like, hey, I just added this, and it's a black and white table with just HTML. I mean, there was no styling to it, and so I would start with that. And I mean, I had some of the. We worked together on the initial concept, but my real thing has been the layout and just getting everything to look like it looks in game. That's been a huge thing for me, or better in some cases. Some statistics. You know, there's 30,000 lines. He added it up. Of custom PHP and HTML code. That's on top of Code Igniter, right?
Yeah, that doesn't count Code Igniter, Ion all. None of the framework stuff's included in that. That's all our code.
And there's a couple of different ways we could have done it, but we really wanted it to be a thin client. We wanted the web page to load really fast, and for all the work to be done on our end at the server. So I added it up, and when you take out jQuery, I think it's 35 kilobytes of JavaScript. So it's really light. Actually, you've been testing it on your iPad for a long time to make sure that it would work. Some stats: 4.4 gigs of data and 54 million rows. So, now there's some pages that just have too much data to try to do it all in one gulp. So some pages we've hand entered a lot of data, and actually before any of this, for your guild.
The spell data, before any of this stuff existed, before I had ever heard of census, I put together a thing that had all of the spells for all of the classes for my own guild that showed basically what you see now on EQ2U. It just didn't show where your character was, but it showed this spell gets replaced at this level by this thing. This is the rare that it takes to make it with. All that I had working on my own guild website for my own stuff, because all of the sites that seemed to have that data were starting to disappear. Like I think there was, I forget the names of some of them, but there was some that was like on a Comcast site, some guy's personal site that had this great list of spell data, and he changed companies, I guess, and it went away. And I went one day trying to find spell upgrades for one of my characters, and I couldn't find the data in a good form anywhere. So I put that thing together for my own guild. When we started this, I just copied all that code over and brought it into this.
So the best example I can think of where we're enhancing the data or where we're caching the data is alternate achievements. When you load up an alternate achievements page, each of those bubbles is a separate ability. There's 2,500 bubbles. And there's no way we could pull that from SOE in real time, because it would be 105 queries per class. There's no way. So we store all that. It gets better though. Each time you spend a point on one of the AAs, that's a different spell description. So if you can spend 10 points, that's 10 different spells that we get. Well, there's over almost 11,000 spells. So again, there's no way that we could do that on real time. And it doesn't change that often. It changes pretty much once a year with the expansion. So we store it on our site, and we could just bring it back really fast. I mean, that's the main thing. A couple seconds, and it loads. We were talking about the spells. That, you know, you can see what level am I going to out-level that spell. So there's no point in me getting a master. I just ding a level, and I'm going to get it.
Right. All the out-level data, all the rare / ability data, whether an item is an ability, whether it's a Grandmaster choice, all that stuff was hand-entered. I believe the Grandmaster data is, I think that data point is in Census now, I'm not positive, but that was all manually entered. And occasionally, when you find one that's not right, send me an email. We got a contact thing on the page. I get them occasionally, and I'm like, oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, he sent us a couple of them. And, oh yeah, yep, no problem. I haven't fixed it in a couple minutes here, but I got to know about them.
We got an email that says, all your level 70s are wrong. And I'm like, oh yeah, Domino changed all those about a year ago. So
After I edited it all in.
I went and changed all this. So. And this is just another example, is the data feeds give us the languages that you know. It doesn't give us the languages that you don't know. So I just made a master list and check against it. Another big one was Dungeon Maker. I really want, again, when you query it, you get all the Dungeon Maker items that you have, but not the ones you don't have. So that was one that I wanted to store them all. So this is something I wish we had in game, is you could see all 20 Beast Lord Warders and your progress on all of them on one screen. And actually, I don't know if I have it. When you mouse over each of these, you actually, the icons, you actually see what it looks like in game. You actually get a screenshot of it. So, querying abilities. How many EQ2 characters are in the data feeds? That's how many have been looked up on EQ2U. So 31% of EQ2 characters have been looked up on EQ2U. 4,600 registered users. 155,000 unique items have been looked up.
That's pretty close to how many items are out there, too.
Yeah. 400,000 unique characters, 18,000 unique guilds, and there's 33,000 characters that are being followed on EQ2U. I know that sounds very stalkerish, doesn't it?
Yeah.
A feature that we added a few months ago is EQ2U signatures. There have been 9,500 unique signatures. So that's how many characters are using signature. A couple days ago, we passed 2 million signatures that we've served up. This is just the beginning. These are some mock-ups of there are other signature graphics I want to do. I want to do PvP. I want to do a trade skill one. I want to do some different colors.
A framework for all that's in place.
Yep. I really want to get that paper doll, or the headshot image in. It could be tricky, but I really want to try to get it in there. Privacy. When we launched, we got quite a few comments, quite a few emails, and quite a few posts on the EQ2 forums comparing us to Satan. But
Good comparison or bad?
so we ended up, we had to take a role in educating people. Said, look, just go log in, click the checkbox. Within 5 seconds or 5 minutes, I'm sorry, your character disappears. Because when you uncheck that checkbox, and because every time you zone or every time you camp is when your character is updated. So you click the checkbox, you call to your guild hall, and within 5 minutes, your character disappears from the data feed, and we just remove it from EQ2U. So December was when that checkbox was added, and then February is like a week after we launched. They added the alts opt-in. I don't know if everybody knows that by default your alts are opted out. So you have to log in each of your characters, and you can pick each one to be opted in. And you can actually use that to keep one character by itself, so that people can't find it.
And also use it to expand your database.
Okay, so a demo of a feature that we just launched at 2 o'clock. We set it all up so that... I'm going to show you guys this. This is how EQ2 Player shows achievements, and this is pretty much how the data looks to us when we get it from the census. This is the very first draft.
This would be the ransom note version.
Yeah. He sent me an email and said, go look at achievements. And I looked at it like, that's going to be a lot of work. Well, one of the examples is let's say you go to Antonica, and there's 20 different POIs that you have to go to. And once you get all 20, then you've completed that achievement. Well, in the data, that's 20 different achievements. Well, I wanted to fold it up and say, no, it's one achievement with all these steps in it. This is achievements. And so on the left side, you see your total achievements, how many you've earned. Obviously, I haven't done a lot, but been busy working on this website. So, and put the point. I used to play EQ2. I don't know what happened. So, and you can see we have 10 different categories of achievements, and if they add another category, then I'll just add another button. This is general achievements, and you can see on the right side that it just shows you the bar graph of general. And I spent a lot of time on how do I want this to look, because I looked at how it looks in game, and I looked at how it looks on EQ2 players, and I really wanted to try to make it, look good on the website. So if you look, it's hard to tell, but these are all grayed out because they've been completed. And if you look on the right side, you actually have what data was completed. So scroll down and you see in black, those are achievements I have not finished. This is exploration, and we have the broken down by expansion and update. And again, you can see the little checklists under each achievement, which are which steps you've completed and which ones you haven't. I can just step through me. I made sure I had all of them so you can see them. Quests. Dungeons. Yeah, so PvP is funny because the bar graphs change as, because some of them you have to do 100, you have to do 1,000, you have to do 10,000. So.
That was another example. They just recently made a change to census for us because we didn't have a good way of stringing those items together. They weren't connected in any way. And they added in an ability in the census that actually let us see the data that now those items are connected. All we had to go off of before was, well, I could sort it by the icon ID, but that's not always accurate. And some of them ended up, this item's here, this item's here, this item's here. There's nothing in the data that put together the quest that says, get 5 mounts, and the quest and the achievement that says, get 10 mounts. So one of them was here and one of them was here. So they added in a thing to the census that actually let us group those items together.
Yeah, for a while it was alphabetical, and then we looked at it in game, we're like, they're not alphabetical. There's a unique order, so they actually give us the data of what order they go in. See, now if you look on the left side, you see an eye with a line through it. Those are actually hidden achievements. You don't actually see those until you've completed them. Yeah. And triumphs. These are things that we're working on. Background color choices, right now it's a white background, which is okay unless you have all the lights off. I mean, it's really bright. So I really want to be able to customize the home screen because we have your level, your class, your trade skill level, your trade skill class, all of that is kind of fixed. And I'd like to be able to provide some references for that. Character pop-up. I'd like it if you didn't have to go back to the home screen to switch characters. I'd like to be able to just switch characters while you're looking at a character. So just, it's easy. The data's there. It's just, or I should say, it's implemented. I just haven't styled it yet. So, I'd like to improve the wish list. I have some different ideas for that. Item compare. Well, the example is okay, so you're in a dungeon or you're in a raid and an item drops. Okay, is that an upgrade for my character? And right now, before I go into a dungeon or a raid, I open all my characters in tabs and on EQ2U. And so when something drops, I'll flip back and look at all my characters, like, is that an upgrade? Is that an upgrade? And it's like, which is, it's pretty cool. But what would be even better is if you could click on an item and you would pick your character and it would show the item that you claimed, and let's say it's an earring, and then it would show your earrings that you have equipped with numbers going up and down, green, plus, it's +1 of this, -2 of this, etc. And you can see very clearly whether it's an upgrade.
It jumps out. That's been coded actually for a while. I've been using it.
I really should have split this into two because the left side is things that we're working on. On the right side is things that we are looking forward to getting from SOE. And the man here at the end of the table has really pushed data feeds, really pushed for EQ2 to give us fantastic data. Would not be possible without him. And I believe you have someone working on quests, NPCs, and yes, that means loot tables.
Yes, yes we do. We have some people right now that are working on getting quests added along with question boards and NPCs along with loot tables because, who cares about NPCs?
You realize there's 8,000 quests, so that's a lot of data. I'd like to do war raids, recipe books, collections, we'll do all those things. We have time to go through. Well, we started late, right?
We started a couple minutes late, but I think there's another, Linda's another presentation.
There will be time right after this one.
Okay. Run through it.
Not fast.
Well,
You offered to talk to people.
We can do some questions.
Well, actually, that's a good question. We've got a little bit of how to get the most out of EQ2U, or we can do questions, whichever you two would like to, or whichever you guys
Maybe
would
we
like
could do
to
a vote. Would you like to do a run through of how to make the most out of EQ2U?
Yes.
Okay.
And then we'll be able to stick around and answer questions afterwards as well.
Come on with us. Okay. So.
We just have to do it fast.
Yeah.
Okay. So how many people were registered on EQ2U? Okay, a lot of people, and some people are using it as a guest. Like, well, why should I register? So this is a walkthrough of some of the benefits you get for registering. So you sign up for an account, fill in all your info, click all those checkboxes. Do you want to receive emails? Yes, no? And now you can see your characters. We remember all your characters that you're following. So I bring up a character, and so let's say I'm looking at an item, cloak. Okay, I want to find some upgrades for that cloak. So I click on the magnifying glass just right next to the cloak, and it takes you to our search results. And so these are all cloaks which are an upgrade for my character. So
Might be.
might be, but it goes based on agility.
Yeah, it goes off the primary stat for your character.
Yeah, so I'm a scout, so I want cloaks that are scout cloaks, and they have a
baseline too.
Yep. And you can see that. So this is you're looking at the item, and if you look on the right side, this is your wish list box. This is the items that I have equipped on my characters, and so you can mouse over and you can see right now. This is what we have for item compare right now. Is side by side.
There's the little C there.
Yeah, the C on the right side. I don't know if you can see it. That's our item compare, which is not done yet.
Still in trace of no mode.
Yeah. If you look at the bottom, you can see EQ2I, ZAM, Xanadu, EQ2 Loggerlinks, LoopDB, and Google. So you can look up this item on all of those sites. Now, if I like this item, I can click the checkbox under Need for Philotic, and that will add it to my wish list. Another thing I want to go over is, we're going to scroll down, and okay, I can see my current AAs. Let's say I want to change the spec. So I'm going to change my AAs, but I want to save a backup with my current AAs. Well, how do I do that? Well, I can click Add Beatney AA Spec. You can type in a description, and here it is, Blade Dance. So I want to save a copy of my Dirge AAs with Blade Dance spec. And I click on it, and now you can see I have Blade Dance saved as an AA spec. And if I click on that, it takes me over to Beatney. So Beatney has an awesome site. We really wanted to support his site, so that's why we had the integration. You can search for items.
It's also a good idea, right before a major upgrade is hitting, that might possibly wipe out your AA specs.
Yes. Save the backup.
Sorry,
It's
guys.
good.
Okay.
I'm still waiting out there.
So,
That was brilliant though.
do you have any questions?
Yeah, are you gonna
We'll be milling around
are
outside.
you gonna put the slide deck up on your site?
Yes.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you very much.